Welcome everybody. It's Kathy Fayok here, the Business Book Strategist, and I want to welcome you to this bonus webinar. I'm really excited that we have a special guest joining us, but before I introduce our guest, just want to remind you of a couple of housekeeping issues. All the lines will be kept on mute throughout the program. Karen has a ton of information to go through, all personalized. She has been so generous in giving us some really tailored, interesting information. So if you don't have your notebook handy, I encourage you to grab it right now because you're going to want to take lots and lots of notes for what is coming up. Let me now officially introduce Karen to you. You know, I didn't have you send me a bio, Karen, so, you know, I'm just going to turn it over to you and you can introduce yourself and take it away.
Right. Well, thank you, Kathy. I am living in the Space Coast part of Florida, so where the rockets launch from, and it is 86 degrees and breezy here. We always have nice breezes because we're near the water. I am an author of, it'll be 25 books as of August. Amazing. And an international speaker, just got back from China about a month and a half ago, as well as a former television host. So I'm very happy to be here and to share what I can with all of you. I think Kathy's going to be putting up a PowerPoint for us. While she does that, I can just also mention that I'm a mother of 5, including 2 rocket scientists, a grandmother of 12, and I have done over 700 articles for more than 60 periodicals, so I do more than just the books. And so let's get started here. I want to mention a couple marketing theories because it helps us understand why we need to really identify who needs our book most and who our target audience is. One of them is pyro marketing that says start a fire and keep it burning. And just like we start a fire, if you've ever done scouting, you gather the driest tinder. And in this case of people and readers, it's who needs your book the most. Touch it with a match. How can you light that fire within that group? How can you get it burning and fan the flames? How can you keep it going? And that's when you start adding more logs on and build the fire up. That's when you reach out to your affinity groups and the secondary audiences. Now I think Kathy's going to go to the next slide. And that is on The Tipping Point. It is a very interesting book. The Tipping Point by Malcolm Gladwell actually did a stickiness factor and saw how things spread, but it was through a very long-term study on how sexual diseases were transmitted. And they found that there were 3 types of people who transmit things that really applies to all types of marketing. Mavens, they gather information. They are your educators because they let everyone else know what information they have gathered. And what you want to do in life is look for the mavens because they are going to disseminate the information about your book. Connectors, they pass the information on. They network with people everywhere, and that's why it's important for you to network because you at some point are going to meet up with connectors who are going to connect you to the right people, including other mavens. And salesmen, they persuade people to buy a book. So God's Girls was one of my first books. My daughter was living in North Carolina and wanted to get a copy of the book. She was teaching at a school. She went to 5 different Christian stores back when they had a lot more retail stores that were brick and mortar. And she would go into each, ask if they had God's Girls 1 and 2. When they said no, she explained everything that was in the book and then left. 5 weeks later, I didn't know from my seeing my review copy to it actually being on shelves it would take that long. She walked in the first store she came to, and they had a front cap display of the books. She went over and picked one up, was so excited when the manager took a beeline right over to her and gave back to her everything about the book she had been telling her. All 5 stores had that. The ones that did not have a front of the store end cap had a prominent display in their children's section. So it was very interesting that she really lit the fire for me and had helped find the driest tinder. So let's go to the next slide. All right, so what we always want to do is be ready to pitch our book because you don't know if you're pitching to a connector, a maven, a salesperson. So always connect the benefits to the needs, the benefit of your book to the need of the person who's going to get it. Know your facts and stats about your audience. What age is really reading it? Who is really getting something out of it? and what do they desire when they read that. Know your outreach. What ministries can most benefit from that? What affinity groups? How can you connect with speaking teleseminars and the internet? What have you got to offer them on benefits? Let's go to the next slide. And so one of the things, we're all different. We have our personality, our temperament, and I like to talk about the temperament in the land of poo. So the popular sanguine, the people-oriented one is Tigger. And Tigger bounces around everywhere, really loves a speaking platform, teleseminars, making connections everywhere. Not so good on the follow-through, though. They often need an assistant to do that. YouTube and online video clips. The powerful choleric, that's the rabbit in the land of poo, is multi-layered because they have so much energy. They're really good at their website, workshops, and training because they're natural teachers, they're natural leaders, blog tours, which are called blurs, and teleseminars. We have to make sure they don't get too bossy, but you know, they really have they want to use their strengths. So the next slide is on the next two temperaments. The perfect melancholy, who usually, because that's like an Eeyore in the land of poo, does not want to be out front speaking to a big crowd. They're okay with a small, intimate group. They're better with a retreat setting. They are very good at the details of print campaigns, website updates, blogging, social networking, because they will follow through on things. They create charts, spreadsheets, everything, and use that all the time. They are also fine with blurs as long as it's one where they get the questions ahead and they have plenty of time to put the answers in. And the peaceful phlegmatic, that's your poo, who's easygoing, a good listener, has great wit, humor, which is something that people are always looking for. They're good as a retreat speaker because that's a relaxed place. Procrastination is a major problem, and they're good at media if somebody else schedules it or hires a publicist because they're good at telling short stories and anecdotes, which media likes. Okay, let's go to the next slide, and now we're going to start getting into the people who sent in their books and what they want me to talk about. And the first one is going to be on Lucifer Leaders, and I think Kathy's going to get that slide up soon. And the hidden cost of deviant behavior in the sales force. Okay, so image to me is very important, and I found a little devil kind of a person who looks very cute because in this case, these Lucifer leaders are very deceptive. Oops, can we go back one?
Sorry. My finger slipped.
And so I have an image with the dollars because this is in the sales teams that we're really talking about in this book. That's what, I don't know who what the author's name is. Do you, Kathy?
It's Kathy. It's a Kathy.
It's Kathy. Okay. And this person mentioned that they like to use LinkedIn. They have a big following there, but they don't really do anything with it. And so what I would suggest is the optimum time studies have shown, particularly on LinkedIn, is to post about 20 times a month with useful content that varies. So photos with links to articles, little quotes, asking followers to comment or like, because you're talking to usually business people in this group, especially in the case of these followers. So, and some tips. I would put up some quizzes that you repost every month or so that helps those followers identify the insiders, help them find those Lucifer leaders. And then I understand your book has lots of horror stories. I would see if you can get them down to little mini horror stories so that you can post those up. People who want to read the full story, you can link to it, or if it's in the book you don't want to link to it, they would just get a taste of what's in the story, and you can put in mini taste from the full story in the book is this, and go ahead and give that to them. But you really want to, make sure that you're touching them with those benefits, and that's why you're going to give them the stories of what's wrong with it, quizzes so that they can start, and the quiz may not just be to identify the insiders. It may also be a quiz to find out if there's a horror thing or something happening or starting to happen at work. What might that be indicating? What might be causing that? What's the behavior of that leader that might be causing this type of thing? So let's go ahead to, and let me just, wait a minute. I wanted to say, whenever you hear any of these things, think about how it goes to you. If I'm mentioning LinkedIn and posting 20 times a month, really across the board on all your social medias, that's the minimum. LinkedIn posts a little bit less because it's very business oriented. Facebook's going to post a few times a day often. Some post a lot more. I really don't care to follow people who post too often. And it says useful content. That's always key. Content is king. It's not going to be the same thing. It's not going to be sales, or buy this or buy that. They'll buy it because they like your content and they learn to trust you. Quotes are always good. Anytime you can ask followers to comment, that's a great thing to do. So now let's go to the next slide here. And this is Unleash the Beast. So with Unleash the Beast, this one, and what's the name of this author, Kathy? Mark, okay. I'm not sure it's quite the right title because the movie with that title, and that's going to be the image that goes in people's heads. I really think you need to add some humor in here and make it a lot of fun because it's a hard thing to lose a lot of weight and go from where you're at to where you really want to be. And I would suggest you get a Halloween costume of a big potato, couch potato with an opening that you can emerge from that and you're popping out of this potato skin. I think that would really be fun for people, and you can have some little cartoons that go along with that, you know, just a little potato saying, you know, you don't want your child to be a chip off of the old potato, couch potato.
I think that's great. That is great.
Now, I looked at several places that Mark has, his website, on Amazon and everywhere, and I keep saying there's principles. He doesn't reveal a single principle. That's important that he does reveal something, or otherwise everybody thinks, well, he's just going to tell me a story. And yes, he went from this great big heavy person to an Ironman champion, but I want to know that he's got something that I'll benefit from besides his story. So I would suggest that at least one principle is shown on Amazon, on his website, somewhere that people can latch onto, that you can't hold back too much or nobody is interested in buying the book. So there's that balance always. What do we reveal? What do we not reveal? You're not going to give them the list of all your principles, but give them one and build on that all the time. Tell them how they set goals, because you must have had to set some goals and how to attain them. Ask the people to write their dreams and the steps that they might need to get there, and have a time of sharing on your social networking, of sharing your dream. And you go ahead and share yours, but ask your audience to share their dreams so you can encourage one another and you become a support group actually. Then they really want to follow you and your books. Become an expert because you've done some interviews and things, and if you don't know it already, helpareporterout.com. HARO, that's what HARO stands for, Help a Reporter Out, is a place where you can put yourself down as an expert, and people who are doing articles, writing books or anything, and they need to find an expert to interview, they will go to HARO, look up who is an expert in that field, and contact you to interview you. I've ended up on TV shows and in First Magazine and other places because of HARO. So think about doing that. Relink your social media to those TV interviews and interviews you've had and your book reviews about once a month or so that a new audience will find you and find those. And use some really fun lists, you know, 6 ways couch potato state is killing you slowly. You might even take that Killing Me Softly with your song and see a parody of Killing Me Softly with my couch potato, you know, with my potato state. Have some quizzes. Are you a couch potato? Can you emerge from being a couch potato? Can you get off the couch? What's the first step you've taken? You know, and some tips on doing that type of thing. And now you have some Amazon reviews. Try to get over 40 reviews on Amazon. You may do that with a contest that people who give their dream or who have reached a certain goal of losing so many pounds or something and send you a before and after picture, you'll send them a free copy of your book or some other tip sheets that you have, or the first 10 to answer a quiz Are you a couch potato? Will get a book if they will then do a review. So you want to get those reviews up a little bit. All right, let's go to the next person. So we have a lot of people to go through. Moving from Broken to Beautiful, Yvonne Ortega. And I worked with her on her cover because she originally had a cover of someone at the beach that looked really nice with their arms up in the air. Okay, but it didn't state from broken to beautiful. It didn't state that journey. And I suggested that she think about broken glass and how it's used in artwork. And so her book cover now reflects that, where you see some pieces of broken glass, but you see this votive candles where the pieces are being put on, and there's a light there, because as that light's beauty is shed everywhere, because the transformation is not just that outer glass that's the shattering of our life, but the transformation is the warmth of the heart and the light that is coming into your own heart during the transformation. Now, she's had eye strain lately, so I suggested while she has eye strain, she should make audio clips, because she doesn't have to look so much. She just has to put the record on her phone or her computer and start recording some short audio clips that she can use for Facebook Live or other things. She's been working on scriptures and memes, which are great to rotate through monthly or every other month, and those are really helpful because her book is a Christian-based book, so scriptures are important, and the memes are important often because the people who are in that state of brokenness are at a point where they can't grasp things fast. They don't even read through a great big thick book. They take a little bit at a time. That's all they can get through when they're in a state of stress, depression, brokenness. And I would suggest that she share shattered moments. And see, I'm using that idea of the glass again. Shattered is a word we use with glass. And many stories of others who came through grief, and use those links to blogs that she might put on her website from Facebook, and put those shattered moments in, the many stories. And for some of those stories, they may not be finished. They may not have come out yet, but they've made some step forward, and that goes along with each of the chapters. Have some motivational tips to work on one jagged piece at a time. How do we soften those edges and get them ready to go in where they need to be to become a part of beauty in our life? And, you know, these are motivational tips that you'd be putting into your social networking all the time, or and you might put in a tip and then talk with people and ask them, how will this tip help you? How can you apply this idea this week in your journey? And start that as a conversation. Use some one-sentence prayers. You've got prayers throughout your book, but use some one-sentence prayers to get through the flying shards of pain. And again, I'm using that glass imagery because people like to see that. And links to tip sheets that you can put on your website, like 10 responses to hurtful words, because everyone, when they go through grief, particularly if it's a death of a loved one, they get these pat answers that really are not that helpful. And 10, just a second here, I want to get to my thing. That's 10 thoughts to inspire you. So it's something to move them forward as well as something to give them a tool for right now. Yvonne is also a speaker, and I would say she needs to touch hearts with the description. I looked up where Yvonne was speaking in some of the online groups like eSpeaker, I think it is, and it's just so pat and kind of like an educator's word, words not from the heart. I think it'd be better if you say, when your heart is broken from loss, tragedy, or a shattered dream, you need a compassionate voice of experience to journey with you to recovery. Professional counselor Yvonne Ortega, in her book, Moving from Broken to Beautiful, will walk beside you with her words written from her own recovery passage. She will bring hope and purpose to restore your heart. So see, we want to use a lot of these positive words to show the benefit of what you're getting, but we want to touch the heart. We don't want to just say and list all the professional credentials that Yvonne has. Go the extra mile. When you don't get chosen by a meeting planner, ask if you can send bookmarks to give out to all the people who are attending that event, and have your bookmark have some tips or mini thoughts on recovery, maybe a short prayer, so that you're reaching them even if you weren't there in person, and giving them a reason to want your book. Have a packet to give the meeting planners that share the benefits and the handouts that you'll have, kind of like a funnel stream, if you've ever heard of a funnel website, in which you might say that I will give them a link to motivational cards to print, to prayers they can read, to words that hug them with love, to morning starts of just a routine each day. How do you begin a day when you know you just don't want to get out of bed, you want to hide your head, you want to cry again? Those types of things can help bridge you into more speaking. All right, now let's go ahead and move on to the next one. I'm sorry, I have to just keep going through.
This is so great, though, Karen. Great.
All right, this is Blog to Book, Kathy's book, Repurposing Content is Discover the Book You've Already Written. And the concept of this is that if you blog for a year, you'll already have a book from your blogs. And so I've got some building blocks for part of her image. As I said, she can use, so she could use ABC from it as in ABCs of, you know, the next step. Or I told her she could use the M and N because how do you get over the hump when you're stumped? These are just ideas that the image, again, goes along with what you're doing. And if we can fit that image together, it gets people, they remember the images more than the words often, but that links their mind to the words that you have said. And again, being a speaker for Kathy, what's good to use is to include a postcard with the book, 1, 2, 3 Easy Steps to a Book and a Testimonial. Because there's a lot of people that get that book, and another friend will say, gee, I think I could write a book, and they can hand them that postcard. And it could be something they pass on so that other person gets a tool also and wants to buy the book. When you are speaking somewhere, and also when you're speaking, have postcards for the entire audience so that they can mail a postcard to a friend they know should write a book or has a book in them or has expressed the desire to write a book. And that gives you a postcard campaign where they take care of sending that out for you. Okay? Have a digital photo frame for your table with a PowerPoint outline of what is in your book. Now, that does have to have a place where you can plug it in, unless there's battery ways of doing them. I haven't looked at the recent photo frames. But that allows them to, while they're standing in line or looking at your table, to visually see more of what's going in there. Pause for each person in the audience to at some point write one sentence of the next blog post he or she will write. Have index cards that are passed out to the people, so they're going to write the beginning of their next blog post that's on the topic of the book they want to do. Then later I would have them turn that over and write the focus of 5 topics they want to write about that will go into the book, and tell them these are your blog focuses for the next 5 months. Because often they don't know what to do next, and that's part of what your book is doing, but give them a very easy tool they can take with them to get going. And now that they've filled this out, if they don't already have your book, they're going to say, oh, if this is just one tool, I need the whole book. So you're enticing them to want that book. You're going to want some website freebies to link to the social networking, because people who want to write are looking for a lot of tools. So tips on organizing the table of contents, tips on brainstorming blog content. Can they divide into 12 topics, or at least 2 for half the year, or 4 parts for the whole year? Reminders to add stories and find images and analogies that fit the focus, and an exercise to help them define the focus. And if we have time later, I can talk about that, but that's where you go from reading the focus and looking and seeing what words can you do to make it more saleable, and you keep refining it till your focus is down to one sentence that's really good. And you may already have some webinars that you've done in the past just on the focus for a book. Do you have that, Kathy?
I'm not sure exactly what you're talking about, so I'd love to learn more.
Right. I have a whole talk that I do, but yeah. If we have time, remind me to go back to that. Let's go on to the next one.
Yes.
Human work. And this is an introduction to intersectionality. And intersectionality occurs when a person identifies with one or more minority, oppressed, or underrepresented group. And so, again, because she does speaking and social media, let's make sure when she's somewhere that they mix up the seating so colors and races, people of diversity are more mixed. They tend to come in together, sit together, and they don't always mix up. So do something whether they have to count off and then all the ones sit together and the two sit together. You're going to move them around so that they are there, and then let the audience get to know a different person. Now, if you have enough of a mixed audience, they can do that. If your audience only has a couple people of diversity, then what you want to do is those people of diversity, pass out an index card to them that you ask them to write something about themselves, something a little personal, something that they'd like to share, have people understand that makes them so wonderful, so unique that everybody would want to know them. And then read those cards during your talk. Have a few from past presentations or people whose stories you know to put up on your PowerPoint and read their story or pass on that story about them. And then when there's lunch or breaks or whatever, everyone can go and try to meet those individuals that are, if they are people who are present there. If they're not and you've just had to use the PowerPoint slides, let them at some point think about a person of diversity they know in their life. How would they introduce them? What would they write about that person? On your social media, make sure you're using links to new people of diversity for your followers to discover. When they fill out those index cards, ask them to give you permission to use that on your website and have them put whether you can use their name or not. And that way you can introduce some people you've met recently of diversity that you'd like your followers to know about. Show beauty of bouquets, rainbows, layers of the Grand Canyon, anything that reflects a mix of color. Because that's what we're talking about, is a mix of color with diversity, color we see on the outside, but layered colors within that we don't see. You know, I found this really cute picture of hands put together of diverse colors that form a heart. Because that's what we're trying to do in this whole thing with the intersectionality, is connect people so they can learn to love one another and want to know one another better. And that's where you want these types of images to come through for people. Post ways to engage with a more diverse group. So you're going to post sometimes lists or just an idea when you're out, you know, we're out shopping. Make sure you look for a salesperson who's a little bit diverse and say hello to them or engage them a little bit. Sit with a group that you wouldn't normally sit with when you're at a sports stadium or, you know, like a high school group where it's not an already assigned seating type of a thing. 1, 2, 3, easy conversations for someone with a different background. A lot of people really don't know what to say. They're so used to just their own little group, their own little family, homogenous group or whatever. They're not really sure how to start a conversation. So give them those starters and help them understand how to engage people who are different from who they are and how to discover something fascinating about that person. All right, let's go to the next one. And that is going to be Spies with Benefits, the patent. And that's by Peggy Sue Wells. The image I have here is actually a type of generator. And it's also the basic shape for an atom, because where does our power from any generator come from? But it has to, our nuclear power, of course, comes from nuclear energy, but it all comes to the energy level of science and things. And so those types of images can be very good. I would say that she might want to do talks on generating war or peace, because this is on espionage, but it's on espionage that could become the third world war. Okay, and talk about espionage, the history of it, modern espionage, what goes on in espionage. Social media, how do we generate power and what's good power, what's not, you know. Nuclear power, and my brother is a nuclear engineer, so was my father back in the 1950s even. So I've learned a lot about nuclear power and other powers. And I would say there's a lot you can talk about, not only on generating power, but even on generating power from within. And the mysteries of science. The blog posts, I would put in some of the World War II science races that occurred for us to have the atomic bomb, as well as current races that are going on, because we see that all the time with Korea launching rockets and trying to enter the nuclear age on their own and things. Energizing forces in God's energy, global politics and power struggles. There's a lot you can tie into on a lot of the news, and that's where your blog posts, you may want to make sure you get feeds from a lot of sources, and also go to sciencedaily.com so that you can find out what the latest studies are on energy, on generating power and things, to be able to link to those places for your followers, as well as maybe some, tie in with the Sherlock Holmes groups and other science mystery writer groups where they're interested in mysteries, but they may want to know more about modern mysteries and futuristic mysteries. That's a lot to be thinking about, but those are things. And any of us, whatever we're doing, if we can tie into feeds that remind us what's going on in the world around us, that relates to the books we write, that gives us great things to write about and link to without having to develop our own content continually. We become the mavens that share information with our followers, and that's part of why they follow us. All right, let's go to the next person, which is another mystery writer, and that is Spies with Benefits. Images. Okay, I have, because this author, Dr. Jack, is also a former spy. So he's been in intelligence, and therefore he himself is the person that held that, tools of the spy. Well, we often think of a magnifying glass, but because it is also romance, I found this cute little magnifying glass that was kind of a wink and a kiss. And this is the second in the series, so he needs to build on his current readership, and he needs to keep his readers going so they will continue following him for more of the series. And one of those is to have some blog posts that are from the main characters. Let that woman and the man that are in there actually be posting at times, and just say post from whatever the character's name is, and put that out there so people can follow, and they might give a glimpse into what would be happening in the future. Certainly Dr. Jack should share his own story, the real spy, and what in the book is based on reality and what is fiction, separating the two. He said he likes to go to book clubs, so make sure you are listed on the Goodreads book clubs and tie into the different book clubs that are listed there. I don't know if you're on the book club network or not. That's another one that, in fact, they have Monday night giveaways for people with books that you might want to be the presenter sometime, to be able to give away some of your books to some and be able to talk about your books to these book club leaders that are the members of that group. Again, you also can use postcards when you speak and ask them to join in on some of your techniques and write something enticing without telling them all that's going on the back of that postcard for whoever they're going to send it to. Ask them to write it as a mystery card that they will send out. For you and anyone else doing fiction books like Peggy Sue, look into the audiobooks. The audiobook market is growing faster than any other segment of the book market. If you can get your book on audio, then that's another format to send it out there to people. Do some talks on how to become more observant. Are there ways to figure out the end of the book before you get there? Are there things we can be observing in life that we're not, that spies just have learned how to do? Because, and that's good. I mean, that's a great tool for parents, for business people, to observe the people working for them, to observe their children in ways maybe they haven't done before. So you have a whole other aspect level of people you can reach because of your book, and you can bring out things in their book that are there because the characters were observant and they noticed some piece of evidence that other people may not have, or they've put that together. So let's go on to the next person. Finding your coach. What's the name of this author?
Melinda.
Melinda.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and this is on finding yourself, your style, and your bliss. Bliss is a word that a lot of people don't even understand what it is. So it's finding the things that make you smile, I guess would be the subtitle. Smile within, smile without, and that's why I have smiles there and the pictures of that, because what is bliss? But it's what makes us happy. It's what makes us wake up and smile or go to sleep with a little smile. And Melinda likes meetup groups. But when you're at a meetup group, make sure you maximize those opportunities. Have your business card there, but be ready to get information. It's amazing. When I go to any meetup, how many people do not have business cards or did not bring them with them? I've learned to have index cards. Notice how much I like index cards in my purse. So I can have them fill out the information that I would like to have from them. I think in the future, after going to a big network of 200 people last week, I'm going to have index cards that have printed information I will put on them that ask me for their name, their Facebook link, or at least yes, no, I have Facebook, their email, and what they do. Those are the things I ask and I start filling out. But it's good to get that information. Have your phone and camera with you. Any group that has a name tag, it's fabulous. You can take a picture of that person and their name tag and then look for them on Facebook or remember who they are. Put that together with their business cards so you understand them. Kathy, you started to say something?
I was just saying that's so brilliant. I've never thought of that before. That is so great.
I back up enough to get the name in it, and if they're wearing it on their waist, I say, would you hold up your name card just for a minute? I want to put your name and face together to remember.
Love it. Love it.
Yes, and sometimes those little things make a huge difference. Follow up with those connections after that meetup. Facebook them. I have, right now, let me hold this up real quick. I have this whole list from last week of follow-ups I want to do with people. And when I was there, because I drove over to Orlando, about an hour from my home, for this free luncheon for women in ministry, and I understand they have these all over the country. They're done through radio stations and things, so check and see if your area has a free luncheon. They bring together pastors, wives, and women in ministry, so if you're a woman, sorry, Mark, send your wife. There's a lot of people who may be there, and so that evening, I just sat down and started jotting down all the connections, looked at the business cards as I did it, and with the business cards, I have a new app, Cam Card, C-A-M, like camera, card. You can put it onto your phone, and then when you take a photo of that card, it instantly puts it into a file and files them under their name, their business, their phone number. They put it all together, and it allows you to put them in a group. So if somebody's a librarian, you can put them in a librarian group. If they're media, you put them in the media group. And it's a great way to organize those business cards that you collect everywhere and don't know how to find anything when you need to. So follow up with those connections. Email them with the freebie, email and say, I have attached a little tip sheet you might enjoy on finding your bliss. What makes you smile today, this type of a thing. Because this is a discovery, a self-discovery, have a treasure map or other hunt for people to follow. Make it really fun of a treasure map of finding in life. What are the multiple streams they might come across on a treasure map? A stream of friendships, a stream of mentors, a stream of work people, or whatever that they can fill in as they go along to get to the final point of bliss or a smile. And hopefully at the end they write down one reason, that one thought during this hunt that made you smile. That's a little bit of bliss for today. Okay, well, because you want to not only have them do that hunt, but at the end discover there's something I gained. I just gained one little happy thought along the way, or I found something new about myself. And do have some posts at times of what makes you smile or what made me smile today. Like last week when my son was posting, children say great things. So he was posting a conversation between his son Jesse and his son Jacob, and Jesse's 6 and Jacob's not quite 3, and Jesse did not wake up on the right side of the bed. He was grumbling and complaining, and finally he had enough breakfast. He felt better, and he looked up and said, "I'm a dinosaur." And Jesse looked at him and said, "No, you are a winosaur today."
That's great.
And so sometimes it's these little things. This made me smile today. What made you smile? And some people may just say, reading your joke. Whatever, that's okay. And put in your best list. What are the best things you found out about yourself lately in your discovery? These types of things will help the reader want to follow you because you're going to bring that smile. You're going to help them continue on the treasure map of finding the treasures within, finding who they are and what's better about them. Those are the types of things that I think they really will draw them into it. And I know you, Melinda, you have not put your book up yet. I don't know if you're still playing with your title or exactly. And in fact, I'm not sure I would say finding. It's like you've lost it. Now you have to find it again, as I might use the word discovering. Because you're on a journey, you're on this wonderful treasure map kind of a hunt to find those treasures that are already there within you that you may not have known. And so consider that type of thing as you're doing that. And I'm not sure if they're finding their coach, are you sending them away from yourself because you're not going to be the coach? Or are they going to be finding you, or are they finding their own method of coaching themselves? I'm a little confused on your title. And I don't think I saw a the subtitle was Finding Yourself, Style, and Bliss, which doesn't sound the same as going out and finding a life coach. So that's a little confusing to me, and that's where I would say you want to refine what you're doing on that. Now, I've gone through a lot, and as I said, with each of these things, think about how you can apply it to yourself. You know, the treasure hunt for somebody like Peggy, Sue, and Mark, they're on a mystery hunt of solving the mystery, and so they might want to have their people build a whole little thing as they journey through the book of where are the clues and where are they going to lead us, and have some little footsteps and see which ones are bunny trails and which ones are going to get them somewhere, and let them have kind of fun as they read the book. So as I say, everything that I've mentioned, hopefully you can apply for your own book. And now, Kathy, I think we do have a little bit of time for questions, or for you to ask me what else you want me to talk about here.
Okay, well, something that I had a question about as you were going through comments earlier, you were talking about, I think for Yvonne, to do some audio clips, and I think that's really intriguing. Where might you, and I know you mentioned Facebook, where else might you put audio clips?
You should build your own YouTube channel and have them on that YouTube channel. Then anyone who goes to the new audio clip you do will be brought into your channel of YouTube to find your other clips from the past.
Mm-hmm.
And then do put them on social network. If you're on a blog tour with anyone, let them know where they can find some of your clips. Put links to them from your website. If you really have a good YouTube TV channel, put it on the front page of a link to your YouTube channel on the front page of that. And then some of the ones that really get the most attention, send a link to meeting planners that you are hoping will want you to speak.
That's great.
They want to hear what you have to say. So if you have something good on that, I would, really work at that type of thing.
Good. What other questions do we have out there? Don't be shy. This is your opportunity to have an expert answer your questions. So please just include those in the questions key and on your control panel, and we will address those.
Yeah, and while we're waiting for any questions, maybe I can talk a little bit about that refining your focus of your pitch.
Yes, that would be great.
One thing to do when you're developing a pitch, because the pitch is, you've got to pitch for the book, and to get a contractor to focus on what's really going to be in your book. Even if you're going to self-publish, you should develop a pitch first so that you can say give that pitch to friends and other people to see their reaction, to see if they'd be interested in the book. And I would first say write down a couple of talking points and write down a couple of benefits. Pick the top benefit, the top point, and talking point, and put that together in what you're going to put down on your actual pitch as you develop that. So I'm I'm opening up a side here which has the ones that I want to actually read. I've got a sample of one of the ones that, I thought it was on this particular slide that I have up, that I'm putting up, which is proposals. I'll click through something I have here. It's not the right one. Did anyone have a question that I should talk about while I'm looking at this?
Yvonne had a question. She didn't quite understand the last point on her slide.
The last point on her slide, can you?
Yeah, well, let me go back and pull that up.
Okay.
Links to tip sheets you can put on your website, like responses to hurtful words, 10 thoughts to inspire you.
So her question is she doesn't understand what I'm suggesting that she does, or she doesn't know what a tip sheet is. I'm
not sure, but let me, Yvonne's not bashful, so I will unmute her line. Hold on, Yvonne, and I will unmute your line. Go ahead, Yvonne.
I couldn't see the last part of the slide, and I could see 10 thought, and then I couldn't see the rest, and that's what I wondered.
10 thoughts to, yeah, I had said what it was 10 thoughts to inspire people. Okay, so in other words, for people going through grief, each morning is a hard thing for them. Each night, loneliness, if they're widowed or something, or lost a child, can be very difficult. So give them 10 thoughts to inspire them. It may be thoughts of something that's beautiful, like, after the storm comes a rainbow. It may be a thought, that when you plant a seed, it takes time, but it will grow and bloom and bring beauty to your life. These types of things, and I know you have quotes and things throughout your whole book. So be pulling up those and similar types of thoughts that you could use. And that's what I am really talking about on that. So I am.
Thank you so much. This is just fabulous. I could listen to all of it.
I agree, Yvonne. Very, very true. Vanessa also asked a question. She said, what are key tools new authors should use to promote their book? A must-do list of the top 5 promotion and marketing ideas to consider. Because her book is just being released, and so she's an excited new author. So what general tips and ideas might you give?
What is her book about?
Her book is about her family's journey through a crisis. Her mother has dementia, so it's about the family's journey through that crisis.
The family's journey through the crisis is what she's doing. So one of the things to do is I always say, look for your affinity groups, okay? And in her case, she's also going to look for the news. When is there a crisis going on? And sometimes it's not to take advantage of selling your book. Sometimes it's because you have a heart to help. Because I went through Hurricane Andrew, and I had some things in my book on the home that was on how to work with a crisis, and I wrote that after Hurricane Andrew. I reached out after Hurricane Katrina to different radio stations in that area just to offer help and let people understand this was not going to be a short process, that it was going to take a while. They would feel like they lost a year of their life, not just that shocking time. And a lot of people working on grief and journeys go through that, But if you're attuned to what's happening, you can reach out and you can use those times to let other people know when you've seen the shock of something that's just happened. How do we deal with it? How do we talk to our children? How do we work with that? So get those affinity groups ready and watch the news on whatever relates to your book. Always be developing your followers, whether it's on social networking or through radio stations that you continue to go back to every time you have a new book or something new in the news that you can talk about to them, and develop the people who follow you. Okay, I will also, if you want, I can put up on my website under my freebies a list that is, what do I call it, the timeline for promoting your book. It's a 6-month period from about 3 months before to maybe 6 months, so maybe it's a 9-month time period of what to do to prepare and be promoting your book. And that's probably gives her a lot of those key tools within that handout, okay?
Wonderful.
So let's look at a draft that I have on the focus. So this is a person who came to me and said I could use this. Her draft she wrote was, "This is a book for all married couples having problems." Now, that's also too big, and it's also just having problems, what kind, okay? Practical tips show people how to heal and how to let God help them love again. When they learn to forgive, they can save their relationship. Real stories will let readers see how this really works. We use really quite a bit there at the end, and we're kind of doing a run-on. So the next one after I gave her some tips she worked on was, "This book shows couples facing divorce, they change," and she really put "they change," "and save the marriage through forgiveness." It uses personal stories of couples who turn their lives around. Each story, so she's using story a lot, also lists ways people can let go of hurt and how to let the Lord heal them and bring them back to loving one another. So we have a little better flow there, a little more specific, and now where it's couples facing divorce, we know who the real target audience is. But she never even gives the title of the book. So the next draft is, "In the Arms of Forgiveness," shows how married couples on the verge of divorce can be transformed through the power of forgiveness. Now that's your key focus, all right? And then she's going to give some more benefits and things. The next sentence is, "Personal experiences of couples who made U-turns in marriage are paired with practical tips to help partners let go of hurting and allow the Lord to heal the relationship and rekindle love." So we're ending with a promise, but we're starting with who is this for. Do you see how we're refining that every time?
Yes, that's really,
And
really
the question
powerful.
I always ask is, do I really show who this book is for? Do I really tell them the benefits, and do I give them the vehicle of what I'm doing to get there? In this case, it's the stories of people with U-turns. Okay, and that's what you want to do on any pitch, any focus that you are doing.
That is great stuff. Great stuff. Good. I'm looking for other questions from our team because I know almost everybody on the call has a book or is almost done with their book and has questions about promotion, marketing.
Right, and we're almost out of time, so we probably have time for one more question, right?
Right, right.
And while we're waiting, I would just remind people that image is very important. If you have an image, use it to the best of your ability for everything. So, you know, where Yvonne has the glass, she can use the things to do with that. Where we're talking about a smile or whatever it is for Bliss, and maybe Bliss with Melinda has other images she would rather use. Think of how you can use that throughout a book. When I did a princess book for little girls, we had not just script, we didn't say scripture, we said the royal words. You know, we said princess in action instead of application, and this type of thing to bring that all together. And that's part of what you want to do, is when you have that image to go with things, what are you going to do to, you know, even Mark, it's not Mark, it's the one who has couch potato, you know,
Mark.
peeling, peel off that skin. Things that you can do for that. Okay, so are there any other questions?
I don't see any other questions, but one thing I would like to know just a little bit more, audiobooks, you mentioned that was the fastest growing segment. Who do you suggest explores audiobooks? I know you mentioned fiction. What about nonfiction?
Nonfiction is not growing as fast in audiobooks as fiction. You know, one of the things to do is to just go out there and look at what's out there in audiobooks and see who is producing those, and listen to a few to find out the quality. Especially your libraries are stocking more audiobooks so that you can go there for a resource to see what's happening for that. Some people are simply starting with just putting up one chapter as an MP3 on their website of their opening chapter of the book and seeing what the response is to that, and are they getting comments back that people want the entire book. Do you know someone who's really good with voiceovers or who has a great voice to read your book, or are you good at reading your own book? There's a big difference there. You know, I have a daughter-in-law particularly who would be much better at reading a book than I am. If I wanted to do an audiobook, I'd probably have her do the first chapter for me and do it as an MP3 recording.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Very good. Well, I don't see any other questions, Karen, so let folks know how they can reach out to you if they'd like to learn more.
Right. Well, come to my website, www.karenwhiting.com, KarenWhiting, just like the fish.com. If you go to Facebook to follow me, it's Karen H. Whiting. I wasn't the first one, Karen Whiting, to try to get a Facebook presence. So it is, and Twitter is also Karen H. Whiting, although Pinterest is just Karen Whiting. So go to those different places. And once you get into the images of your book, let me just say, it's good to build a Pinterest board behind the scenes. And this is good for your person whose book isn't out yet, so that when the book releases, they can release a board that's already full of wonderful images that go with the book, that have their little comments under it.
Very good. Any final words, Karen?
I would just say identify your strengths in marketing and build on those, because you're going to be more comfortable there. But while you're doing that, tap into the other areas. Your 5 main areas of marketing are social media, which most of our people here like, media, that's TV, radio, and blog radio and TV, print, articles as well as your own business cards and things that you do, becoming an expert, and let me think again. I've said speaking, and speaking. So those are the areas, and work on doing a little bit in the others. See if you can come out of your comfort zone for those, or if you find that's another way. And also find out where your audience lives. What social media are they on? If you're writing for teens and they're all over on Instagram and you're doing Facebook, you're not reaching them. Okay.
Very good. Very good. Well, thank you so much. You have been very generous with your time. You have given us some fabulous tailored remarks. We want to thank you so much, Karen, and want to encourage everybody else to join us for future webinars. So go out there and make your mark, everybody. Thanks so much for joining me. Bye-bye.